Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Right now, we have a guest with us. We have back on the show drummer Gus Rios of Gruesome. Welcome back to the show, Gus.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So, Gus, I know we mention this every time you visit, but there's always seems to still be a little bit of misconception on the band. So tell people really quick how the idea and concept of this band came about and what you're all about.
You know, it's really just, and I say this all the time, it's like a community thing that we're doing, because all of us in the band, we're just death nerds, same as everybody else. Swear to God. And it was a thing where on the DTA tour, Matt and I were just two drunk, stupid metalheads gushing about how much death changed our lives and blah, 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 blah. You know, and how unbelievably fun it would be to play those songs. You know, we were trying to do like the DTA thing, doing just the old school stuff with like Terry and then like maybe James or whatever. And, you know, it literally was just two drunk idiots going, man, we should try to write our own death riffs. And, you know, luckily, you know, enough people kind of get it that we're just death fans, same as you. And, you know, like when I listen to a Gruesome record, it is really hard for me. And I even saw Matt said this in an interview recently, like, it's kind of like you're not listening to your own band. Like, you know, I don't think any of us take any credit, you know, for gruesome success or you know, or anything like that, other than, you know, we're able to execute and write the songs to the best of our abilities or whatever. But, you know, the weight of what that band is death, and we all know it. We all say it. Nobody in this band is saying anything to the contrary. You know what I mean? It's just a fun way to say, I fucking love death. Really.
And today we're here to talk about your new album, your second full-length Twisted Prayers, out now on a Relapse record. So, Gus, when you guys were writing this album, what was your, like, musical goal for this one?
I mean, you know, this was the I fucking love spiritual healing love letter. You know what I mean? Like, we just, after Savage Land became more than any of us expected, you know, then we went and we did like the Scream Bloody Gore thing on Dimensions, and then we're like, okay, well, maybe that's our trajectory. Like, that's how we handle this. Like, you know, this is a really unique thing we're doing, so it's not like there's a playbook other than like Death's playbook. So we're just like, well, let's just go that route and see how that goes. And, you know, and for us, it becomes, it's really fun. It's really interesting to listen to a body of work and go, okay, how can I like make part two to this? You know, and some people will obviously say that we failed at it or that we just ripped it off, you know, or some people will just enjoy it for what it is. You know what I mean? And it's just that. It's just like, hey, what if there was 8 more songs on that record that nobody ever heard?
and what are, like, I know that Matt writes the lyrics and stuff, but what are, like, some of the lyrical themes?
Well, you know, much like Chuck did back in '89, and I remember we actually spoke to Terry about this, you know, they just kind of turned on the news, and sadly enough, real life is a lot scarier than fiction. So, you know, these are just real life topics that, you know, that Matt felt strongly about. And, you know, and obviously you present them in a dark and doomy fashion because it still is death metal. But, you know, they're his views, and, you know, he was just kind of true to himself with, you know, his thoughts on the current affairs of things.
Now, also, you had James Murphy as a guest on this album, so tell us a little bit, you know, why you guys went with James, although it's probably quite obvious, and what you wanted to accomplish having him on this album, Gus.
You know, a lot of people may or may not know this, but James, on several levels, plays such an integral role in what is Gruesome. I mean, aside from the 30 years ago, you know, things he did that set the waves in motion, but, you know, he was the first one, because he's a personal friend of mine, and he's the first one that I even sent the demos to before anybody else, and I was like, dude, is this good? Are we being stupid? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like, and that's the dude. If he would have came back and be like, yo, guys, this is a little bit redundant or whatever, I'm sure he wouldn't have continued. But he was like, this is pretty goddamn good, man. And I remember calling Matt going, dude, James Murphy just said it, we're killing. We're doing this. You know what I mean? So, like, his blessing carried a lot of weight for us. Same thing with Terry and Eric Reif and, everybody else involved in the camp that we, dealt with. But, knowing that we were doing a spiritual healing record, man, I mean, time permitting, we wanted him to do like half the record solos. And I said this in an interview recently too, man, when James, he's got a sound so unique that, when you hear James Murphy solo, over a gruesome riff / death riff, man, it's for those few seconds, like, you can just pretend that this is like a new death. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just like for me, it's emotional, and right now it's extra emotional as we talk about it, but it's a way to pay homage to someone that we admire a ton, and having James's voice on that is just really authenticating to some degree.
And now, how many songs did he contribute to?
How many what?
How many songs is he on?
He ended up doing solos on 2 songs, but man, one of the songs at Death Story does like a trade-off thing with Matt, which kudos to Matt for going toe-to-toe with the king. But it's really cool. It's like, a really fast trade-offy solo, then it goes to Matt, then back to James, and back to Matt. So it's like, it's really, 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 for us, again, we're just death nerds, and I'm sure for Matt it was just like, oh my God, I'm soloing with James Murphy. You know what I mean? Like, we're just nerds like everyone else.
So what could you tell people about the cover art and the artist, Gus?
Well, I mean, the thing about it, I say it all the time, like, to me, the biggest thing that Gruesome is it's a feeling. Mm-hmm. And, for those of us that are old enough to remember purchasing, any of those first 3 Death records, like, at the time of release, man, there was no internet. There was no, like, you maybe saw it advertised in, like, a magazine to let you know it was even out. But, your first experience of that record was just sitting there staring at the cover at the mm-hmm. record store. So, like, the album covers had this immense impact on your overall imprint and your memory, you know what I mean? So for us, Ed Repka was such a huge part of what a Death album is, mm-hmm. Was or whatever, that, and I've said this a bunch of times, like, if he wouldn't have been available, I don't even know that we would have done it, because it just isn't right without his artwork, at least for these first 3 albums.
And it's like you said, just when you pick that album up, the vinyl of that album, it's automatically very familiar. You know what I mean? It's got that real nostalgic feel to it, just like what you're doing. You're paying this tribute to Death. And like you said, I cannot imagine any other art on a Gruesome album.
No, it just would have been... It would have just been a band that's
weird,
yeah, these guys sound like Death. Like, we just want it, and again, we include ourselves in this. Like, when I look at that album cover, I'm transported back to, like,
right.
I remember buying Spiritual Healing on cassette,
right,
and just like I remember listening to that record in 1990, going, Jesus, man, now I got to get better on drums. This sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I could sit at home and play along to, like, on the guitar, I could play along with Leprosy, and I was like, yeah. And then I got that record. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta step up.
Gotta step up your drum game.
And that's what Death did to the genre. Like, mm-hmm. Death was the band that made you go, wait a minute, dude. I kind of gotta get better at playing whatever it is that I'm playing.
So what did y'all think when you heard the final mix, Gus?
Man, Jarrett really. I mean, it's funny. Like, I haven't listened to that record in a few months. And, aside from, like, watching the proofs of the videos that just came out, like, the other day I actually listened to it. And I was just like, man, that dude really just, you know, and he had a conversation with Scott Burns before we started recording for like an hour. He spoke to Scott. And, you know, and Jarrett's, you know, he's been making records a long time. So it was just, we knew going into this that we wanted this record to sound really good. So, you know, I literally couldn't be any happier with the final product.
And now, what different formats is it going to be out on?
What's that?
What formats is it going to be out on? Or is it
vinyl,
out on?
It's out on vinyl. It's out on cassette, but I don't know if those are sold out or not. And then, of course, CD and your Spotify's and your iTunes and whatever else these kids are doing today.
And you talked about videos, and you got like a gruesome video with that.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was kind of all Matt. You know, he would send us.
No!
Yeah, I mean, kind of both of them. You know what I mean? Lyrically, you know, I mean, this is Matt's domain, and you know, this is the album that kind of has something to say to some degree. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I got to say, the cool thing about it is, whether you agree with exactly what he's talking about, like a song like "Waste of Life," you can kind of make that song out to be about a fucking boss you hate, someone who's a real asshole, anybody that falls into that waste of life category. Like you can kind of make the song your own, which was an interesting thing. Once a song became about something about real life, you could then really start applying it to yourself more so than I'm going to rip your guts out. You know what I mean?
Now, were you guys planning on doing more videos?
We have one more for, I think, the song Youthful Legacy, which, disclaimer, when the video comes out, the drum kit set up, it's a little stupid looking because I drove all the way to South Miami and I realized I forgot half my drum rack, so I just like threw together whatever it is I could to create a drum set. So drums look a little stupid in the video.
Can't wait to see it now. No.
Everybody knows that's not how things go down in real life. I just forgot some shit.
No, you also have had some cool merchandise to go along with it, with this release. So, I mean, the last time I talked to you, you were like putting together these skateboard designs and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about that idea, how it came up, and how did that all go?
Well, I'm a humongous skate obsessed nerd fanatic. Like I skate every single day, you know, much to the chagrin of everybody that I work with as a musician, because if I take a spill, blah, blah, blah. But I don't care because I literally can't not ride my skateboard. So I just kind of had this idea to do a custom deck, you know, and it's very selfishly because I wanted to ride a gruesome skateboard, like my own like pro model to some degree. But, you know, amazingly, I printed only 25 and I sold them all in like a day. So now we actually do have 25 more, and then that is it. I'm not doing any more of these, but those should be here in like another week or two. So, you know, you'll have 25 more chances to, you know, and that's it. We're not doing that again.
No. Additionally, Gruesome released a cover of Mantis's Legion of Doom as part of the Decibel magazine Flexi series. It's going to be out this month. So how did that all come about, Gus?
You know, every time we do a record, we kind of just brainstorm, you know, what extra songs we're going to do. And they usually are, you know, Matt kind of has the ideas and he pitches it to us. And I gotta say, you know, it was an interesting choice to me because it's got the real obvious spiritual healing, like where that riff came from. And I remember recording it, I was even like, this is, you know, it's cool. But it was afterwards when I listened to the final mix and I was just listening to it and I almost got emotional because I was like, man, like you can hear like little kid Chuck and Cam, like, you know, probably don't even have hair on their faces yet, just writing these, like, little riffs, that, you know, and they just put it together. Like the lyrics are all like super primitive, but man, I respect it because, you know, look what those guys managed to put together from that. You know what I mean? Like it's the seed that turned into what this all is now. Like, I mean, look at here's a band 30 some odd years later. That's the whole purpose of the band is to pay tribute to what that, you know, brought forth, that funny little song. You know what I mean? Like, really, really interesting that at such a young age, those guys were like getting ready to do something so groundbreaking.
And so what kind of touring do you guys got coming up, Gus?
Well, you know, because everybody has their own bands and Robin just, you know, the whole world needs her. You know, we really can't do much, you know, kind of goes against the whole we're cashing in on things because, you know, we're definitely not touring nonstop and nobody's, you know, quitting their other bands or their jobs or whatever. We have a full tour of Europe coming up. We have a couple of shows in July in Tampa and Orlando, and then we leave a couple of days later and we're in Europe for about a month. And for after that, we really have nothing planned. We're hoping to cook up a U.S. run of some sort, and then you know, do some more shows in Europe next year. But, you know, the band's really never going to tour more than once or twice a year, I would think.
So, Gus, as a drummer, and when you do these like European shows, and you're playing like these backline sets, what have been some of your experiences with these sets? These kids,
you know, it's in Europe. You're mostly going to be okay. Most festivals you play will have really, really great drum kits for you to pick from. So it's really not an issue. The funny stories are all in South and Central America, where you show up and it's like a green bass drum, a yellow bass drum, if there's two bass drums, like two of the same size toms that are also not the same color. You know, that's when you got to get creative and you just walk up to a gig and you're like, all right, well, let's do, you know, you got to roll with the punches. So hopefully, you know, luckily in Europe, Tama, I got a cool kit for all the shows, mm-hmm. and then the festivals. I'm sure will have killer drums, so should be all right.
And again, Gus, what are some of the best sites that people could go to learn about, you know, more about the band and what's going on, and follow you with events and that kind of thing?
I mean, you can just Google search gruesome death metal. That'll take you to the Instagram. You can go to Relapse Records. I'm sure they have a YouTube channel with all their videos. If you want to see what the band sounds like live, there's a ton of some pretty good quality audio from the live shows. So you can see that you know, we're not just a studio trickery band or whatever. So yeah, I mean, you know, just Google search gruesome. You know, put on your 1980s clothes and take a ride back in time with us.
So there you guys have it. Gruesome has a new album out now on Relapse Records called Twisted Prayers, and you can check them out on their little European tour and see what's going on with them on their websites. And Gus, as always, thank you for coming on the show, telling us a little bit about what's going on with the album and your tours, and best of luck with the new album and out there in Europe.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here, and rest in peace to our brother Ralph Santola.